Hello, beautiful Earth Angels. My name is Joanna. I go by Joanna the Healer. If you are new to the channel, thank you so much. I hope you stay. Hit the subscribe button. And if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. I love having all of you here. I have a very interesting energy with me, and I actually feel it on my chest, and I feel like I want to slightly jump out of my skin. Pardon me, I'm turning down the music. I feel like I want to jump out of my skin. It feels very electric. It feels a little bit chaotic, but at the same time, I'm not resisting it, and I'm not really focusing on anything in particular other than the feeling itself, which is really interesting in and of itself, because that implies that we are spending more time on focusing on the now. And there's a part of me that goes, duh, Joanna, people are at home. That's true. And that's part of this process. I guess, no time like the present to look within. So this is going to be a weekly pulse for the week of April 5th, but I am recording it on April 4th because we have this incredible 444 portal. Most of you know what it is. So I wanted to have the energy flow through me on this particular day. And I'm glad I did. I usually do these on Friday because the energy is palatable. I can grab it, which tells me that we are entering a period where manifestations becomes not only possible, but greatly amplified. And I feel like I can grab it with my hands. It's that kind of a feeling. I also feel like there is much that will come at me, and I am also you. And the need to decipher, the need to what's the word that I'm looking for? Pay attention to what's coming at you, whether it's through the news, whether it's through somebody, whether it's you're out on the street and you're not paying attention. And in other words, it is important to be within the center, in the center, or in the now, as much as possible. And there are several things. I feel there's so much coming at us that sometimes when we tune everything out, we miss certain things that are important that could give us something that we would use. On the other hand, if we allow our attention to be on everything that's coming, then we're so bombarded that we don't know what to think. And it's learning how to find the space between the two, is that balance point, and everybody's balance will be slightly different. And because I feel there is so much coming at me at any given time, and this is called information. What's coming at me is information. And of course, look at the news and media. So nothing wrong with that. It's just the need to stay fully in your own body, in your own being, to be able to discriminately decipher what is of use to you and what isn't. And this to me says there will be many things coming in information-wise. I just heard the word decoding. So something about decoding. There's a lot of information coming in. There's this onslaught of information, and being able to go, no, not mine, thank you. Being able to learn how to manage it without becoming overwhelmed. And most of us here, most of you listening to this and watching this will know exactly what I mean by that. It's how to find that space of living in the world that is presenting itself in a very chaotic way, and not ignoring it, but at the same time being able to find your own inner space, own inner peace. And even though the world out there is appearing chaotic, we are not allowing it to come in. And that takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice. And this energy feels very strong. I've never felt anything like it. It's It's a little bit like a hurricane, but it's not bad. It's for the purpose of restructuring, which we know what that is. And when things are restructured, sometimes there is a bit of a mess, and that's obviously a metaphor. And once the mess, the hardest part is the structure going down, because it's something we've relied on for very long, and then it goes down. But once it's down, then we can start picking out the pieces that we will take forward and clean up the rest of the mess. And hence, we start fresh and new. And it's almost like we're going through this portal. Now, of course, thank you. This is what they do to me. Yes, that's why I was asked to do this on the 4th, because we're going through this portal. I laugh at myself all the time. So they do have a sense of humor, I must say. Not because what's happening in our world is not serious. Far from it. It's very serious. But because having a bit of fun despite of what's going on doesn't diminish what's going on, but gives us a reprieve from the intensity of what's going on. And that reprieve is like recharging our batteries so we can keep on going and we can keep on moving forward. That's actually a fantastic analogy. Thank you for that. So that is what I feel is happening. They're saying you forgot about your intention. Okay, I've gotten, thank you. I've gotten used to, or am getting used to, stating my intention with any kind of work that I do, particularly when I'm out in the public face. And so mine, it's very important to me because it tells you what I'm about. And if it doesn't, it's not what you're about, then it's not a match. We're not wasting each other's time. But it's also important for me to know why I do this and what I do and I don't do. And my intention with these types of information, or this type of information, is to give you access to information that may ultimately reshape and change your life going forward. My intention is to give you a tool. It's to give you an understanding. An understanding can be used as a tool to be applied in your life in various ways. So that is my intention, and it's of the highest integrity. You'll probably, if you know me, you will feel it. It's not something I'm going to say that I have integrity, all that. You will feel it coming from me. So if I don't have it, then you're not seeing me. And if you do have it, then yes, we're on the same page. But anyway, it's important that I state this. Okay, move on. Intention. All the information that I provide is to ultimately help you, empower you. That's ultimately what I do. But I can't switch the switch off and say, now you're in your power. No one can do that. Only each and every individual can do that for themselves. I can help you, I can assist you, I can help you remember who you truly are, but I cannot make you own it. I cannot make you accept it. I cannot make you say, yes! No one can do that but you. So a lot of this sits on you deciding and choosing who you choose to be going forward, which leads me to my next piece. And that is when I was conversing and saying, okay, so do you have any message for me? What should I say? And I heard exemplify yourselves. And I thought, I think I know what it means. And then I looked up exemplify, and it is to be an example too. And I thought, okay, what we are being asked to do is to imagine the world we would love to live in, and what is required from the participants, meaning us, in order to make that world happen. So if our vision of the world is unity, what must each and every one do in order to create that unity? Because then unity applied by billions of people creates unity. And this is all about unity, if you really think about it. Why do people come together? It's to unite. There is strength in the numbers. And that's kind of how I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, that was interesting. So exemplify yourself. Imagine the world you want to live in, and then be an example of being in that world. Very clever. What did I write here? Yeah, how do you want your world to be? And then be an example of that. Okay, so that's very important for us. So if we want to live in a world that is free of judgment, not discernment, judgment, and I'm using judgment in the negative type sense of the word. If we want to live in a space where there is no judgment, we need to look at ourselves objectively and ask ourselves, how do I contribute to living in a world that is judgmental? And each and every person will have their own answer. What came to me right away, because I am human being after all, is comparing yourself. When you compare yourself to someone, particularly if you don't feel good about you, then and you perceive someone better than you are suffering from a space of lack. And negativity and judgment will come from that space. So if you are wanting to have a world where there is no judgment, you have to look within yourself and ask yourself, how am I the harshest critic for me? Because ultimately, know this, the world represents a whole. A whole is many, 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 many units. So we are all part of the whole. If we want the whole existence to be illuminated, then each and every individual that is part of the whole, has to be illuminated. So everything at the end of the day comes to what is within us and the work we need to do in order to be in that world, or to be in that person, or to be that example. The other vision I had was a lamb. So I kind of tune into it, and I understand lamb to me means offering. It illustrates sacrifice. And then I saw Jesus walking with the lamb. Now, I'm not a religious person. I was born into Catholicism, but it's at a very early age. It just didn't ring true with me. So me and religion, especially I have my human connection to the word Jesus is very religious, and it's very oppressed. So when I see Jesus in my mind, part of me kind of does this. It's like I can't help it. But I understood there was a message here, and the message is that we are moving towards a time where we will follow, like the lamb follows Jesus. We will follow a certain understanding, and it's not about us following like lamb or like sheep with having no choices. It's furthest away from that. It is about choosing some sort of an ideal and then following that ideal to the best of your ability. So to me, when I tuned in what Jesus represented, the first thing that I received was he represented unity. Whereas the world is very much about separation, segregation, right? So he apparently, because I have never read the Bible, forgive me, represented unity. He also made it very clear that each and every person has God within themselves. And he illustrated that by being able to heal. Also, again, demonstrating that anyone has the ability to heal. And that's why I feel we call it Christ consciousness. So what we are moving into, a whole bunch of us, is we are following what is termed as Christ consciousness. I do not mean to say Christ consciousness in a religion context, not at all. It's more about the unity. It's all about empowerment, really. It's to recognize that your own power is ultimately residing within you. It's ultimately residing within you. And that is the truth. And sometimes that can be very hard to bear. It can. So, he also taught us how to believe in ourselves. That's what I was told. So If this connects with you, great. Please don't bash me for it if that is not what you believe Jesus does. Except, again, this is when I tuned in and it flowed through me. So I'm going to just present. I'm just going to be the good girl and just be the messenger. Literally messenger. So that's all for the next upcoming weeks. So what are we facing in the next little while? The card of integrity is really about what is true to us, what is true to each and every individual. Are you within your own integrity? Do you have integrity to yourself? Who are you integral to? What is integrity to you? What does it mean to have integrity towards yourself? What does that mean? To me, it means to be honest with who you are. To be honest with who you are is to have somewhat of a deeper understanding, or at least a look at what makes you. And there is so many things that make you and I, emotionally, spiritually, physically, so many other ways. And in order to be within our own integrity, we need to know ourselves. Well, how can we know ourselves if we don't look inside? And how can we look inside when we are so busy doing stuff and things for other people? We simply have no time. So this time has been selected for quite a few of us in order to do just that, to shift commitments and responsibilities and to give us more time, which then gives us the opportunity and the ability to make the choice and to go deep within. However, no one can force anything to do anything. We don't live in these times, thank God. So, whatever your highest principle is, or whatever your highest principle you want to have, you need to organize that knowing within yourself first, which means you need to know yourself. Please spend some time this week knowing yourself well, or knowing yourselves when. And they're showing me us flowing through this portal. And it's like I feel like I'm going through these gates almost. And it's purplish in color, purplish and gold. So those are interesting colors, very royal, very regal colors. And I feel like we're being asked to really take a look at what are we lugging around? What is weighing us down? What are the things that are no longer needed, necessary, useful, all that kind of stuff that we're still hanging on? What are those pesky things that ultimately take away from our ability to be illuminated, to be more ourselves? And I feel this information that's really coming fast that I was talking about earlier. That's why I'm feeling we need to decipher what's ours, what isn't, what's ours, what isn't. And I feel some of you will say, oh my God, I don't know what to believe anymore. Maybe some theories will come out. I'm not a theories person. I try to stay away from to opposite ends, from extremes. I kind of like to work the middle road a little bit. It's just a lot more, I don't know. So maybe there's going to be some stories coming up, some theories coming out, and maybe I have no idea. Power struggles, things we haven't heard before, things we're afraid of. And I just hear some of us saying, I don't know what to believe. And then I hear, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what is true to me really? What is really true to me? And then often you'll be able to decipher what is and what isn't. And at that point, you can just say, no, that is not my truth. That is not my truth. And I just heard, people like to follow the leader. The leader better know what he's doing or he or she's doing. So if you follow a leader that appears to be all over the place, whatever the all over the place is, then that is not a good indication of someone owning their leadership. I'm actually going to have to think about that, but that's what came through. Okay, so the message is, be mindful what leader you follow, because some of the leadership you have been following for a while is no longer working. And it has to do with our own perception of power. Our own perception of power. How do we perceive power? Where do we put our power? What does to have power mean to us? And how does that help us? It's just, we're diving deep into these interesting topics, but that is a very contemplative work. So I'm actually feeling myself going. So don't be surprised over the next few weeks. It takes me all the way till May, where some deep, profound understandings will come through for you at different times. It's like waves. I feel like waves. What else are we facing? Birth and expansion. Well, no kidding, right? No kidding. And what I'm getting with this is that as we are birthing and expanding ourselves, we are being asked to also let go. And whatever it is that we are letting go of has in the past limited our expansion. So as we expand, something has to change. And these are old beliefs, old commitments, all these things that we have previously relied on, small, big, or in between. And that may feel scary for some of you. For some, it could be jobs. For others, it could be commitments. For others, it could be other things. Ultimately, whatever that is that we are letting go, ultimately, that will be replaced, except the replacement is even better. But we need to let go of whatever is that we are holding on to. And for example, if we're holding on to fear of not having enough money, we're holding on to not having enough money. We're holding on to that, right? In order for us to experience abundance, we have to let go of that, because that can't help us go over there where the abundance is. So if you see it that way, you'll understand. And you'll also be able to understand from a higher perspective why you are holding on to fear of not having money. For one, it's familiar. It's what you know how to do best. You've done it so long. It's a part of you. You don't have to think about it. It's automatic because it's subconsciously driven. So it's like we're digging out these pesky, so to speak, energies, and we are cleaning them out. We are cleaning them up. And those ultimately end up being like nuggets of gold. When you first find gold, it's dirty, it's mucky, it's like, well, whatever. And then when you clean it and you put it in display, it's actually a beautiful thing. So what this is also saying in a very beautiful, metaphorical way, that what we think of as unnecessary, or let's use the term shadow, what we think of as shadows and fears, ultimately once transform, become our strengths and something we can be proud of. And that's, gold, again, the representation of gold means value. Whatever it is that we are afraid to deal with or afraid to let go, once we transform it, it actually expands our value. It's not that we're not valuable already. It's how we perceive ourselves. Ultimately, when you shift from a fear into confidence, or feeling less restricted, when you shift fear to the other side, that only has the ability to expand you. It just gives you more ability to create. because you're less restricted. So I think this is a message that says, look at your own restrictions. Remember who you really are, which is you are not your restrictions. You are much more than that. You are power. You are a powerful being. And the difference between the powerful being and then you that's afraid is because the you that's afraid doesn't believe that it is powerful. And that's conditioning. So we are being asked to look at what makes us powerful, what makes us feel powerful. You don't have to be powerful in terms of being a president to feel powerful. That is not what I mean. What I mean by being powerful is to be in your own truth, be in your own power, be the being that you are without the limitation, without the trying, without the convincing that you have value. You have value already. Never forget that. Start practicing positive thinking. It's hard in times as these, where there is a lot of scary and potentially you can term negative information flying around. When we are faced with adversity, we generally don't jump around and feel happy, because we are consumed with what's going on. That's a lot of dense energy. It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of discomfort. So we have to find a way to balance it out a little bit. And what I mean by that is, if you are listening to the news, it doesn't have to be news, whether it's about now or what's going on or whatever, that feed your fear, then you are effectively solidifying that fear that is already within you. You are feeding yourself more of that. Now, how do you make the distinction between, where is the space between not being too consumed and not being ignorant? And I've talked about this before. So each and every person will have their own little limit. And here's what I would invite you to do. When you are listening to something negative, pay attention to what you feel in your body. Most of us live head up, so we don't really pay attention to our body. It oftentimes goes unnoticed. And we are shifting from predominantly thinking to also feeling. So there's a greater balance of both. Okay? And the feeling is the very creative action. So we are in expansion. That's a creative process. Is there anything else? No, I think that's what I got on that point. So make sure you stay positive. Do something. Oh, I know what I was going to say. If you focus on something, if it's in your face, for example, if you are one of those amazing individuals who works in a hospital or in a health unit, and you are faced with this, that's all you're looking at. Of course, that's what you're going to think about. So when you're on a break, give yourself a little bit of something that will help and relieve some of that intensity and that density that comes with what you are facing. Give yourself a 10-minute break, and rather than talking about what's going on, put on some headphones and put on some music and listen to something that inspires you, something that opens your heart, something that reminds you that you are a powerful being, something that reminds you that, oh, okay, what I'm facing here, I know there's bigger picture to this than I can see. Something that brings you back to the center. That is how you can help. That is how you can help the process. And that goes for every single one of us. But particularly for people who are now faced with this 24/7, because that is what's required of them at this time. And we all face it in various different ways. What are we looking at? Achievement and perseverance. And I know perseverance has come up a lot. So that makes perfect sense. We are persevering. These are hard times, but we are persevering. As a matter of fact, I think it was last week that this card came up. So they are repeating right now, which is very interesting. But ultimately, look at this beautiful card. And what I see about this card is the word cooperation. Even though the elephant is bigger, stronger physically, perhaps even more powerful than these two ladies sitting next to him, that there is no focus on that whatsoever. They all identify with what is important in their heart. They share something in common. So this is a huge ass message. To not look at people in terms what they represent, whether it's how they look, their status, essentially looking at each person without taking without the judgment. Now that's interesting. That is, for most people, myself included, because I've just been trained that way, it's going to be some work. And when we begin to judge less, we create more of unity. Because judgment is, when you're judging somebody, when you're comparing, you are making the fact that you are separate real. I don't know how else to say it. I feel like I want to get the message out, but I don't have the words. If some of you will understand this, I'm just going to put that over there. But unification, remember the word unification, what Jesus taught, what was his message, unity. So this is about learning how to be less judgmental. And you know how that starts? And where that starts first? It starts within ourselves. When we begin to see our own selves with the eyes of unity, with the eyes of compassion, with the eyes of love, we look at ourselves as little children just wanting to be loved and feeling safe. We don't have a tendency to judge harshly little children when we see them in pain, do we? Not very many of us. It goes against the grain of who we are. We are compassionate beings. We are love. In its in the purest form, we are love. So look at how you judge yourself and what you judge yourself for. And ask yourself, are these judgments mine, or they're just principles that I have adopted? And then learn to judge yourself less. And you will notice, because I've experienced this, you will notice that you will begin to judge other people less as well. It all goes hand in hand. What are we doing over the next little while? More birthing information. We are birthing. Like, the word birth has been all over the place. And whatever you get from this card, let it speak to you. I hear it's ready. Interestingly, Mother Earth is birthing herself. What's birthing? Birthing is transformation. And, the whole yin and yang principle, death, birth, the space between the two is the transformative process. We are going through a massive transformation. Our hearts and our sacral and first chakras, root chakras, are undergoing a lot of work right now. So it's extremely important to stay grounded. Very, very important. If you've been having feeling on your chest, a pressed-like feeling, mine comes up to the front, it's because there's a lot of stuff being cleared out of there. That's often where you will feel your fears first, but then they'll migrate to other parts of the body. Okay, this is also about not resisting what is happening. Supporting the process. No, it looks like she's supporting the tree. And there is that flow. There's no beginning and no end. So there is, I want to say emotional and spiritual connection. This is the physical. This is more the spiritual. That's how I see it. The yin and yang principle. Let's look at it that way. The physical and the spiritual. It's about letting it flow. Now, I'm not saying, obviously, if you are sick and you're like, oh, I'm just going to go with the flow. That's not what I'm saying. I think most of you will understand that message. Look at the next card. And the colors are very similar here. So this to me represents the yin and yang. That's how I see it. It's the give and take. It's the balance. It's the yin and yang. And we talked about balance at the very beginning. The color predominantly here is of expression. Okay, expression and the throat. Again, the sacral chakra, it's all about creativity. It's about allowing more and being less restricted. And if that wasn't enough, look what I have for you, another birth. Now look what's happening here. I see this as Mother Gaia. I see it as Earth. This being is birthing Earth. I just find that fascinating. I just find that so fascinating. And it's all connected to this portal, you know, whatever you think the portal is. It's like we're entering a different frequency dimension, it's even though it's gradual, I see it as gradual. I can see it, I can feel it. I wish I could have a way to explain it. These some things I just can't explain. But I feel many of you will know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so we're approaching some pretty interesting times. And I don't mean necessarily in a bad way, but we are going through a clearing process. There's no question about that. All right, my darlings, if you like this, please click subscribe. I was asked this morning by my team to remind people that they can subscribe, and I don't like doing that. So here you go. Okay, so apparently the more people are subscribed to a channel, the more people tend to watch something, and I would love this message to go as far as it is possible, because at the end of the day, I want us all to have an understanding that at the end of the day, we are dealing here, the condition we're dealing with here is our own power. So if you would like to subscribe, that would be wonderful. If you would like a private session with me, whether it's healing, which is what I mostly do right now, or other sessions, that information is down below. And please do comment. I love all of your comments. And I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.